If you are new to our area or maybe considering Reading as your next home, and maybe you're that type of person that really just wants a brand new home, new construction, easy peasy, and you're curious, what does our area actually have to offer? Well, on today's episode of Rooted in Reading, I'm breaking down the east side, the west side, and the two main developers who are making that option possible for you. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rooted in Reading. I'm Faith Barrett, your local guide to everything here in Reading, as well as the housing market as a whole. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment below what your thoughts are. Do you like new construction? Are you looking for new construction? Would you ever live in a new construction subdivision? You know, a lot of people have come to me and said, what options do we have here in Reading? And I'll be honest with you, being a small town, truthfully, on a big scale, we don't have many large developers that are building out these massive subdivisions. It really comes down to two players, D.R. Horton, which a lot of people know as the nationwide builder throughout many states, and right now, Jeb Allen with Palomar Builders. Now, if you've been in our area for many, many years, Jeb Allen is not new around the block. He started building in 1990 and has poured so much time and effort into our community, making subdivisions, making options for people. And it wasn't until a few years ago that he decided, well, I'm going to retire. I'm going to step back from developing, building, and sold a lot of his lots to D.R. Horton. So that's kind of how D.R. Horton got reintroduced into Reading. Now, prior to selling off the lots, Jeb, retiring and everything, D.R. Horton has been in our area before, and they have built out different subdivisions. They pulled back, went on to do other things in different states. And like I said, they have now returned in the past couple of years, finishing out some of the lots that Jeb sold to them. In more recent news, especially at the beginning of 2025, Jeb Allen announced, well, I'm coming back and I'm going to start building again, which was huge news for our community because if you really think about it, we as a community had one option: D.R. Horton. Now, D.R. Horton has its pros and cons. We've broken down a lot of their plans, what they have to offer in different episodes that you can check out. But really, a lot of the frustration that people had with D.R. Horton is that there was no customization. What you see is what you get. And, the pro though was that there were so many of these in-house options of lending, insurance, competitive prices, where people are like, I do have affordability with a new construction home. But at the same time, it's that pull of, well, if I'm going to buy new construction, there's parts of the groups that want to make it customizable, their own personal. And, D.R. Horton just has never given us that option. Well, now with Jeb Allen stepping in, there's a lot more conversation of here's some plans, here's some color schemes, here's some finishes that you can pick out to really try to make your home what you want it to be. So truthfully, right now, in a snapshot of Reading, we have two developers, and equally, they're competing for the attention of those buyers to say, pick my product's better than this person, etc. So again, if you're new to our channel, we're going to jump on a map tour and I'm going to show you exactly where these developers are investing, what you should know, and what perks do you have as a person looking to buy new construction between both options. We're going to touch a little bit on the west side where D.R. Horton has again stamped a subdivision that they're still building out, so you can kind of see both options. And at the very end, I'm going to show you a brand new subdivision that Jeb Allen has broken ground called Riverstone. And let me tell you, I have toured pretty much every single home in that neighborhood right now, and it is some of the most beautiful finishes I've seen in a long time for new construction. So let's get started. Okay, so as we've done a lot of map tours before, we've talked a lot about the Reading area as a whole. So right now we look at Reading and it's divided by 44 and 299. Basically, this is the west side, this is the east side. Now, a lot of development has been occurring here on the east side. We had Costco go in, which was a huge thing. They moved basically from, over by Dana Drive down to South Bonneview, which brought in Save Mart, Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A, all these different, franchise, and a lot of development has been happening here. Now, if we focus over here, this is kind of the main heartbeat of Shastina Ranch. It's been going on, honestly, for years. So before we kind of get into who owns what side and what subdivision belongs to who, a lot of this kind of cluster of homes have been pre-existing before this subdivision broke ground again. So Stones Fair was by Palomar Builders. That's been existing for, a handful of years. This subdivision over at the tail end of the Shastina Ranch Park has been here prior to Stones Fair. And right when Stones Fair was done, Jeb Allen kind of said, I'm kind of done, I'm retiring, I'm stepping back. And so D.R. Horton came in and took over. So D.R. Horton has two subdivisions in the Shastina Ranch area. We have the Lilac subdivision, which kind of moves down into this area. And then we have the Magnolia neighborhood. So this is all D.R. Horton. I will draw it just to make it super easy and fun to see. So this is basically D.R. Horton. This is D.R. Horton. And then up here, all of this is D.R. Horton. And so this has been going on for probably a couple years. The Lilac subdivision is kind of known as more of the entry, the 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. Right now, they kind of have a handful of 1,500s square feet homes, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, all the way to 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. And the price point that you're going to kind of see in here is anywhere between like the high 400 range, like 475 to like 488. Like the 1,500, I have kind of some notes here. The 1,500, you might be able to get down to like the 440 range. So it's kind of like the entry level for new construction. Now, the thing that D.R. Horton has really dangled and really made a very attractive option for the lack of customization and the lack of being able to, pick your finishes is they have in-house lending. So their rates are some of the most competitive rates a lot of people can't even compete with. For example, one of my clients just last month just closed on their house and they were able to get an interest rate of 3.99 as an FHA rate. Now that isn't something that's always advertised. The builder obviously significantly buys down that rate to make it incentive so that people buy their products. But with D.R. Horton's in-house lending, their rates can be often very competitive to other local lenders here. So for example, right now their FHA rate is 4.99 and their conventional, advertised rate is 5.5. I'm not quoting a rate. I'm not saying this is a permanent way that they will always offer, but currently for the month of July, these are kind of the incentives that they feature in their neighborhood to get you to choose their inventory over other people's inventory. So the Lilac subdivision is kind of that entry level price point. Now up here, this is still owned by Jeb Allen. So he has talked about in the past of possibly this being townhomes, kind of like that more condensed lifestyle, but no conversation of when that's going to be, groundbreaking or anything like that. So for right now, this is kind of just sitting there. Now, if we move down to, let's move down to here. Before we jump into Jeb Allen's side, we'll finish up D.R. Horton. Magnolia neighborhood is kind of the larger scale neighborhood. You're going to have homes going all the way up to 2,700 square feet, 3-car garage, 4 bedrooms, all the way down to roughly 2,200 square feet. And this neighborhood starts hitting like the mid fives. You're going to have kind of mainly the range being around 550 to 575. One cool plan that they have in this neighborhood is the multi-gen. So literally the house has an attached ADU studio attached to it, so it creates a multi-generational option for people. We've highlighted different kind of amenities and styles of these homes on different YouTube videos, but one option that D.R. Horton definitely offers that's really attractive to a lot of people is the multi-gen. So in the Magnolia neighborhood, you're going to kind of see again the mid 500s, you know, very, very, very low 600s if it's, you know, peaks up that high. With any new construction, typically your front landscaping is done, your backyard is for you to do. Now in this neighborhood as a whole, there is no HOA, which is a huge attraction to a lot of people who want to be in a new subdivision, but also don't want to have the HOA hanging over their head. Now, a cool part about this Shastina Ranch Park is that the park itself, like I said, is no HOA. So the Google Maps haven't updated, but this was just finished last year, and it's an 11-acre park, and it has swings, it has a playground, and it's a huge asset to all of these neighbors here that obviously want something to do with their family, but obviously, like I said, not pay that HOA. Now, as we move into Jeb's side of things, currently units 6 and 7 is kind of like his main start of his re-entry back into Shastina Ranch. Now, if we look at the pricing of his homes compared to D.R. Horton, I will say they're pretty dang right in line, and maybe that's a strategy for sure, but you know, right now for an 1,800 square foot house, you can get anywhere between, you know, $469 all the way to $530, and I know that those variations in prices really are going to have to do with the size of the lot. It's been a very, you know, competitive development to see two developers going at it and relatively having a similar product to offer in terms of pricing and square footage, and then both of them competing against, you know, what, like I said, with Palomar Builders, what's nice is in unit 6 and 7, you can kind of pick your customizations and your finishes to really make that personal touch. Whereas like with D.R. Horton, what is picked, like you can't change it. So it's been very interesting to see Jeb Allen as a local builder come out with his prices and try to really be in line with D.R. Horton so that it becomes a competitive, you know, offer and product online for consumers to consider. Now, unit 6 is in the works. They definitely have a lot of things rolling. Unit 8 is kind of more of a higher customization. I personally haven't walked through any of what could potentially be products like these, but from all the research that I've had and kind of their advertisement, unit 8 is really going to be left for, you know, customization, picking the floor plan that you want, picking the finishes, really kind of from the start to finish, really making it your own. Now, as we move up to here, this is another part of Jeb Allen's, is going to be Silverstone. They haven't really announced too much about this, but this is going to be another portion of the Shastina Ranch. Now over here, this has been kind of in the works for a long time, that this will be potentially where Pacheco's school is going to go. Now, when Jeb started this entire Shastina Ranch long time ago, the goal was have a park and have a school, so it kind of creates a sense of community. Now, the school honestly has been moved many times in terms of when it's opening, when it's breaking ground. So I think as more development has been occurring, D.R. Horton's obviously been trying to fill out their space. Jeb is stepping back in. It's definitely going to be a more attractive thing for the school, you know, if they do consider, you know, re-entering and, you know, considering to kind of plant some roots here. Obviously, it's a massive undertaking, so TBD whether or not the school definitely breaks ground sooner than later. Now, as you consider Shastina Ranch, overall for the Shastina, one thing that I really like is the proximity to a lot of things. So literally 5, if that, 2 to 3 minutes right down the road of airport, you're right next to the Reading Airport. This is kind of like our industrial park, so this is going to be eventually where the Amazon Fulfillment Center is being projected to be. And then over up Rancho, literally probably 4 or 5 minutes, you have Costco, Save Mart, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Baskin Robbins, all these different franchises that have been already developed. Google just is super fun and has not updated anything. So this has been like a huge development. We talked about in recent episodes about the recent developments in Reading. This was a huge development for Reading. And so if you decide to live in Shastina Ranch, your proximity to a lot of local amenities is like spot on. Now, if we zoom out, Some people just don't want to live on the east side. They prefer the west side, maybe a medical professional, maybe somebody who wants to be closer to the lake, the hiking, the biking trails, all that. East side, like we've talked for many, many times, is a lot of that slower pace country style life, with certain things like the park here. A lot of people are utilizing that because there's walking trails to, get outside. If you go up just a wee bit on Shasta View side, so here's where the Lilac is, you go up Shasta View. There's another kind of popular walking trail, which is called Clover Creek Preserve. A lot of people utilize this walking preserve as well. So this is Clover Creek Preserve, totally open to the public. And then if you keep going up Shasta View, the most popular place that a lot of people, visit and walk and utilize is the McConnell Foundation, which we've spent episodes talking about, and this is a great area. Now, for people that, like I said, want to be on their bikes, want to be close to medical resources, maybe their jobs. If we zoom out over to here, the only subdivision that we have available on the west side of Redding as a whole, there is some small mom and pop builders that are, building small one-off lots, but the subdivision and the development as a whole, this would be Harlan subdivision. Now, this used to be owned by Jeb Allen, like we talked about before. He had developed a lot of Lower Springs. Salt Creek is what it was known for. He also built out, kind of some townhomes, and relatively speaking, Horton took over, like we talked about, the remaining of this subdivision. So they've renamed it as Harlan subdivision, and then Aurora is basically, they haven't really announced too much, but this could potentially be a continuation of the condos here in the subdivision that are going to be new construction. They just have always said coming soon. Truthfully, I think with the economy and inflation, Redding as a whole, builders are a little bit gun shy right now. We are a small, population, and I think post-COVID, a lot of developers took a step back and said, is the market going to pay what it now costs to build a house? Are we going to be able to get what we put into the product? And so if I was a betting lady watching D.R. Horton do what they're doing, I think that they're kind of trying to be conservative on launching Harlan and also Aurora, just because they don't want to overbuild and then be upside down. So with Harlan subdivision, they have broken ground. They have been, slowly selling off stuff. I will say, compared to what Jeb Allen had in there for Salt Creek, it is definitely nothing like and similar in regards to a modern scape, high-end finishes. It's very similar to their Magnolia finishes, a little bit change in, different, color schemes or, fixtures that can kind of help elevate it to be a little bit more upscale. But in retrospect, it pretty much is a very like and similar to what you're going to experience on the east side, except you're just throwing it on the west side. Now for Harlan, you're going to be ranging anywhere between the mid 500s to 600s. You're going to have an 1825 square foot house. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, 3 car garage, all the way up to like a 38 square foot house. So, you get a lot of square footage. And again, the prices are going to just kind of vary based on lot, view, and ultimate size of the house. With the west side, which we've talked so many times about, like I said, a lot of people want to live on the west side because you're close to the bike trails right outside your back door. You have, down literally probably like 10 minutes, you have the most beautiful lake, Whiskeytown Lake. And so a lot of people want to live on the west side. And so this has proposed a really great solution for people who choose that side versus the east side. Now, based on that, those are our 2 main subdivisions. Now, I did mention in the very beginning that there is a brand new subdivision called Riverstone, and this belongs to Palomar Builders. Now, a lot of people, are kind of new to this idea for a few things. One, it is high-end luxury. Like, I've walked through all of the current model homes that they have available, and it is really, really nice. Definitely doesn't feel like that cookie cutter. There's different styles, there's different floor plans. The price ranges are anywhere between very, very high 600s all the way into the low 700s. A couple things to note about this neighborhood is that it is HOA, so it is approximately 103 $183 a month. It's gated, so your HOA obviously is going to cover the security of the neighborhood, the road, and some of the common landscaping. Now, I will say, having lived here my whole life, a lot of people have just mixed differences on HOA. Some people love the idea of HOA. It helps preserve the neighborhood. Other people really truthfully don't want to be told what to do. So I can see potentially a con to this neighborhood is not everybody's going to love the idea of an HOA, but I think if you can look past the HOA, what the neighborhood has to offer is really phenomenal for what our area lacks in that higher end new construction. Now, on the map, we are, like I said, on the southwest side of Reading. So as you come down, you're going to kind of come down basically in the main area of Reading, that being our downtown area. So you can kind of come across Cypress Bridge here, or you can, come across, sorry, that was kind of like some crazy driving. So you can either come across like Cypress Bridge here, and then you're basically going to shoot down what we call 273 to get to the neighborhood. Now, a lot of people, for convenience sake, I will say people living here in Reading, really pride on how fast does it get to work, school, jobs, commute, all that. And if you're moving from a big city, honestly, something of 10-15 minute commute is not going to feel like a big deal. But for some people in Reading, 10-15 minutes is a big deal, and they want to be close, quick proximity. And so what I'll say is that with Riverstone being launched, some people may not find that the southwest side is convenient for them, just based on the fact that, coming down 273 and really coming into Riverstone, there's really only one option into the neighborhood. There's not like, a different sector like Shastina Ranch where you have kind of, Rancho Road or Airport Road or all these different angles of how you can get in and out of Shastina Ranch. Riverstone, for the convenience sake, some may find it not to be as convenient for what they're looking for, in their lifestyle and what they're looking for in their next home. Now, because this subdivision is kind of unique in that it's higher end, has a lot of higher end amenities, I thought it'd be fun to show you what these photos look like, what to expect in this neighborhood, especially since we're in the price point of what we would consider in Reading our luxury end price point. Now, this is listing courtesy of Josh Barker Real Estate. Currently, they have about 5 or 6 homes available. This one I've actually toured all of them. Really nice high-end finishes. This one is $715,800. It currently is 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, almost 2,500 square feet. And currently, like I said, is listed for $715,800. Kind of has a little bit of that modern approach with a slanted roof, 3-car garage, RV parking, which is big for our area. But coming in, you're going to see these high-end finishes with different black splashes, color schemes, just to really kind of give it a very modern approach. This floor plan is actually really functional. The master is on one side, and then the rest of the bedrooms are on the other side. You have, in this subdivision, which is really nice, right now, all of the homes are being landscaped in the back as well as obviously the front. So in new construction, like I said, you're typically going to see the front landscaping being done, but the backyard is actually done as well, which kind of makes it a complete package, in my opinion. Really move-in ready, turnkey, ready to go. So as you can see, there's a lot of really cool amenities. Now, I will say this is kind of their model home, the star of the show. So the finishes, the furnishings obviously make it really the chef's kiss. But if you're kind of curious, okay, model home aside, what else is kind of in there? I will say that they have definitely a lot of different floor plans to really kind of help those that might be looking for something with a multi-gen, kind of what DR Horton was offering over in Shastina Ranch. They also have a multi-gen attached in-law unit that, can be helpful for those looking for that type of setup. They have a little bit more traditional plans if modern isn't your thing. So this is, I would say, is a little bit more of their traditional plan. 3-car garage. Here is the gated entry like we talked about. Obviously, the neighborhood is called Riverstone. Really high ceilings, wood beamed accents. You're going to have the quartz countertops, kind of still modern touches, but a little bit more of like traditional, nothing too flashy or, pizzazzy, if that's the word. I have And again, backyard's finished. So this kind of gives you, there's just different options here in this neighborhood. This one's listed for $699,800 right now. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, almost 2,600 square feet. And so you can kind of see all in all, you know, from this neighborhood, you're going to see a little bit of low end, high end, kind of the 600 range, that 699 price point into the 700. So I'll be really curious. This is a kind of a new concept for our area in terms of high end luxury homes, specifically in a gated community. So I'll be really curious, honestly, how it does, how our community responds, and overall, just the idea and concept that Jeb is trying to build, you know, hopefully takes off. So as we look at Riverstone, you know, zooming out, like I said, we really have 3 subdivisions, you know, Shastina Ranch, Riverstone, and the Harlan subdivision over on the west side that D.R. Horton's kind of touching. So although Redding may not seem to somebody coming out of our area to have a ton of development going on or a ton of development options, for our area as a whole, like I've kind of shared in the past, after COVID, a lot of people just took a lot of people took an entire step backwards and really started being really conservative. Could the area support what I'm building? Could the area pay what I'm building? And then you talk about inflation and the economy and prices going up, and builders obviously have to make a profit, and they're trying to make this affordable housing, but equally have the cost of California for permits and state requirements, all these things, county levels that really make building expensive. And so at the end of the day, I'm excited to see that we now have more than just one developer, which is Palomar Builders. I'm excited Palomar Builders is back in, just to kind of give people options, because before Jeb, you know, D.R. Horton was it, unless you kind of looked at some one ma and pa, you know, one-off builds on lots that, you know, became available every now and then. Now, this is Redding as a whole. There are different subdivisions in Anderson that are available, but for this video, we're kind of just focusing on Redding. So as I said, if you're looking to move to our area, you love new construction. My husband and I have lived in our new construction house for a little over 7 years. We were honestly the first people to buy in this subdivision, and some might say that's risky, but I always tell people that are looking to invest in real estate, new construction can be the biggest hack to the greatest equity build ever. Because as the development, you know, continues, as builders decide, okay, I'm going to continue to build, you know, Jeb has this vision of 200 homes, you know, in Shastina Ranch. It's like, if you're that first one that starts, can you even imagine what that 200th home is going to cost? Like, the prices are just going to continue to grow as demand grows. And overall, I think new construction sometimes is the safest investment, personally, in my opinion, to watch equity and appreciation happen. So overall, if you love new construction, I know it has its pros and cons. Not everybody wants a cookie cutter home and, you know, want to have that charm and character. But if new construction is your vibe, I hope this episode was helpful in seeing what our area has to offer. If you like what you see, have further questions, I would be happy to share, you know, price tags and different, you know, options of lots and availabilities and customization if that's more the route you want to go, as well as the incentives that D.R. Horton offers for lending to make affordability more of an option in new construction world. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Rooted in Redding. Don't forget to hit that like button, comment below. I'm curious, do you like new construction? Do you live in new construction? Is new construction the only way that you're ever going to buy your next home? And always subscribe to our channel, because we continue to make videos every single week about Redding and the housing market as a whole, and we would love to see you next week. So as always, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode, and I'll catch you next week.